been with the company for 38 years and have really led the development of the whole retractable roof product line. And developed the control strategies, led the R&D that we've been doing to understand how to influence crop development by manipulating the climate. And so that can be both in terms of how to influence flowering timing, or when the harvest is ready, but also how to try to reduce some of the disease or insect pressure that growers may be experiencing. So I come at things first of all, by trying to understand what problems do the growers have and what opportunities could there be, and then how do you create strategies to help the grower achieve what they want to achieve. So Rajendra was saying that your background is strong on the apple side. And from my point of view, I always try to figure out where's the market opportunities for the growers to make more money. So it's either by growing a different variety, growing a bigger size, or a higher quality. And so by understanding where the market opportunities are, then you try to develop the strategies to try to hit those market opportunities, because it's really easy to sell for a low price per kilo, right? That's easy.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so the challenge is how to increase the revenue per kilo, because really the cost of production is the same for every hectare, right? Assuming that you have the same pruning techniques and same spray patterns and that. So of course, it's always best to start with the highest value crops per hectare, because the greatest return on investments comes from crops that have more value than less value. So from your background, which crops do you think have the high revenues per acre, per hectare, that could provide opportunities for you or your customers?
Actually, as Rajendra said, that we are mainly on apple, but for last 2 years, we are also entered into blueberry cultivation.
Okay.
So the two crops are the high potential crops for India. Apple is also considered very high potential crop.
Yeah.
Because the farmers who are growing apples get very good prices in the market for the quality apples.
Yeah.
For the quality apples. So blueberry is a very new thing for India, and very few farms in India. And I think one of the biggest farm in India is under Cravo's retractable roof system, the DS group. But one of my client is also want to grow around 400,000 of blueberry saplings. So he's also having a huge land, and I was exploring some. I was also discussing with Rajendra about the cheap roofing system, protective system. And some of my clients are also growing berries. They have just entered into berries.
Yep.
You must be knowing that we have a threat of monsoon. When in July, August, we have lots of rain, and the two crops, the blueberry and apple, is harvested during this time.
Yep.
So we have a problem of excessive rain during this time. So when Rajendra said that they have a comparatively cheaper system of this cover from rain and hails, it looks feasible to me also.
Yeah.
But all depends on the economic viabilities and how we work together.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So here's the way. I'm going to just give you explain how things normally happen. So you just identified your two climatic problems of rain and hail, which I understand. do you also have potential challenges of frost during pollination time?
No, no,
No.
frost is not a problem here.
Okay. So, so what happens is growers tend to first focus on their climatic extremes, the extreme weather conditions that reduce the yield, right? The
Mhm.
harvestable yield. But you don't pay for a retractable rain shelter system just by protecting. You pay for it by actually trying to increase the revenue. So
Mhm.
you look at what happens in a normal year in your orchard, you don't get well, your monsoons come every summer, so I mean it is a problem. But um, do you also have problems with sunburn, for example, or hot, dry conditions at certain times of the growing season?
Yes, sometime like this year we had this problem, but
Okay,
generally it is not there. But this year, due to the very dry spell during April, May, June, and July,
yeah,
so we had some sunburn problems also.
okay. And does the size of the fruit change from one year to the next?
Mm,
Some years you have bigger fruit, some years you have smaller fruit,
no, generally what happens like this year when there is a dry spell, the fruit size was very small. But
right?
suddenly when rain started, the fruit started grow good in size.
Yeah,
But but the problem was the some of the fruits like we also grow galas. So gala, there were breakage of the fruits.
they split.
Split, yeah.
Okay.
Cracks,
So
some cracks due to the excessive water.
right.
Yeah.
And that's first what you've just identified as some of the opportunities where there's good varieties to grow, but they're susceptible to damage,
Yeah.
which means your yield is less. And so,
Mhm.
I've been talking to some apple growers in Canada. I'm new to the apple industry, right? So I ask very dumb, simple questions.
Mhm.
Um, But the first thing is when you look at are you normally growing on high density orchard plantings now?
Yeah, yeah. High density.
Okay. What would be the range of tons? Do you talk in tons or bushels per acre per hectare, kilos? What do you normally talk when you're talking
No,
about yield?
we talks in tons, but high density concept is a very new to India also.
Yeah.
It's it's say 5 years old system. So like
Hmm.
I'm also in my I have a land and I'm also started renovating my farm. Like this year I also uprooted some old trees and planted some new trees. So this is not the right time to talk about the yield of our plants. But yes, after 2 3 years,
Yeah, yeah.
we will be in a position. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because you're in the renewal stage right now.
Yeah, yeah. Renewable stuff.
So you had the older big trees and now you're going into high density. But just for my understanding then, when you're talking yield, do you
Mhm.
normally talk tons per acre, bushels per kilo? Like what do you normally talk? How do you refer to
We
yield?
we talk about we not in bushels, we talk in tons. Like our orchard is having around 15 to 18 tons of
Per
apples per hectare. Per hectare.
hectare, per hectare.
Yeah,
Okay,
per
not per
hectare.
acre. That's the thing you have to be careful in India. Sometimes they talk hectares and sometimes it's acres.
Acres, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So 15 to 18 tons per acre. And so the thing that happens is, first of all, you got varieties that produce different yields, and
Hmm.
then you have the
Exactly.
weather. Well, and so, okay, so let's start with the weather causes the yield to change. High density,
Hmm.
low density changes the yield.
Yeah.
And then you got the weather for the season, because you
Hmm.
either have a great growing season or a really difficult growing season.
Hmm.
And so the yield changes every year.
Yeah, it fluctuates. Hmm.
It does, but the genetic potential of the tree was the same every year.
Every year, yeah.
But the climate around it controlled whether you got a high yield or a low yield.
Exactly.
And so when what normally happens is the discussion starts with the biggest problems, which is rain and hail. But then moves into potential problems at pollination, right? If you had too wet or too dry or too hot and the bees didn't want to fly, or the pollen was too dry or the pollen was too wet. But you also have some people that say, I'd really like to try to advance the flowering 2 weeks, because if I could advance the flowering a little bit, I could stretch out my harvest window and I could have my workers working over a longer period of time. Because that's part of the problem on the farm is you need lots of pickers for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Right. And when you can have the first fruits to be harvested, you get to hire the labor first. So as labor becomes more difficult, there's an incentive to try to get early with something with your harvest, because if you can hire the pickers first, you've got them before everybody else.
Yeah.
Right. So then when you look at, okay, so if we're using the roof to try to influence flowering timing, that could help your harvest timing. It could help in the hiring of your labor. We see certain varieties do get sunburn, which means your yield can go high or low. But also, as you've just noticed, if you have a really dry spell, the tree is under stress. Because when you have a hot, dry spell, you may be giving lots of water, but the tree is losing water faster than the roots can absorb it, which means the tree shuts down. And when the tree shuts down, you're losing kilos. So what we're trying to do is understand, if you get 15 to 18 in a typical orchard, it's like, why don't you get 23? What can you do to try to get to 23? And so the strategies would be to try to potentially get an earlier pollination to get a longer season. If you have 30 kilometer per hour winds, the trees stop growing, right? Because the wind is sucking too much water out and the stomata is closing up, and you lose production. Now, it did not do physical damage to the tree, right? The 30 kilometer didn't do physical damage, but it stopped the growing process. So if we move from flowering pollination, then we've got wind. We know we don't want hail. We don't want rain at certain times. We don't want sunburn. So as we start to approach the harvest time, we don't want sunburn. And if you, what month are you harvesting normally?
No, it's a simple hand-plucked apples. Actually, you need to understand one thing, that in India, the land holding of the apple orchards is very small, 2 hectares at the most, 2-3 hectares, not very big orchards.
Yeah.
And the population of India, it's a huge population India has. So by this time we are getting laborer in time, but in coming years, yes, there will be difficulty of workers, laborers.
Yeah.
But we generally do everything by hand.
Yeah.
Manual. No machines are used.
Yeah.
And this is especially because of the topography of the area, because it is a totally hilly terrain and very difficult to use machines and machineries.
Yeah. Yeah, because you have to be high elevation in order to get the chill you need.
Yeah.
Interesting. And does your price per kilo change as the size of the fruit gets larger?
Yes.
And
definitely, when size increases, the yield increases.
Yep. Yeah,
yield increases.
the yield increases, but does the price per kilo go higher for extra large in comparison to
Yes,
medium?
yeah. The most of the apple harvested in Himachal, especially in Himachal, are very small size.
Right?
Even if we increase one grade up, the yield, the potential of yield is likely to be increased by double.
Okay. So think about
Because
how.
most of the apple is very small, very small. Most of the farmers has.
Yep. So think about how our discussion started. We're
Hmm.
talking about rain protection and hail protection, and now we're talking about, wow, if we could get one grade up, we get 100%
Yeah,
increase in rupees per
exactly.
kilo.
Hmm.
So now we change the conversation from weather protection to climate optimization.
Yeah.
Because if you have a motor that can close two,
Hmm.
if maybe it's going to take 3 motors to close 2 hectares, as an example.
Hmm.
Well, if you can close 2 hectares in 5 minutes to
Yeah.
optimize the growing environment, you now start to think about, okay, if I'm going to go to a high density planting and choose the high value varieties,
Hmm.
right? Not the commodity, but maybe it's the gala or whichever ones have the highest value in your area. The reason they have high value is they're difficult to grow with the weather extremes you have.
Hmm.
So give me an idea in terms of rupees per kg. If you're selling a medium small size, how many rupees per kilo would you get?
The price doubles.
No, but
Like
how many rupees for medium then? Is it 50,
like
100,
if
5?
if if 1 kg of the very small apple we sell at 20 cents, at 20 cents, the bigger size will go even 60 or 80, 60 to 80 cents.
Yeah, that's a big
1 kg.
difference.
Yeah,
That's a big
three to
difference.
four times sometime.
Okay. Um, and is there a premium if you harvest earlier or later, or really the price is the same?
Always, there is a premium if you harvest earlier, because earlier the market is a huge market at the
Yeah,
beginning of the
yeah,
harvest.
yeah.
As the harvesting start from the different areas, there is a glut in the market.
Yep.
And when there is a glut in the market, the price reduces. It dips
Yeah,
down.
absolutely. So when you're looking at the strategy for harvesting, when you have control over the weather, you will be creating a better environment to get a bigger size, which could help you harvest earlier.
Mhm.
Or if you keep the apple on the tree longer, you could increase the size more. And so now
Yes.
it's like, which one's going to give me more rupees?
Mhm.
Is it better to be 2 weeks earlier with a smaller size or 3 weeks later with a bigger size?
Mhm.
And now you get into, now you're not just a farmer, you're a businessman who farms,
Yeah.
right? Um, what's happening with the number of fungicides that you have available? Are you seeing that you have more available? Or is the government reducing the number of fungicides you can use? Are
Government
they
is reducing, is imposing some restrictions on some fungicides, but the more and more are coming. The
okay?
substitutes are coming.
Substitute. Okay, so is there any sort of limit on the chemical residue on the apples, or in India that's not there yet?
No, there is a limit, and especially farmers are aware of the drawbacks of the excessive use of fungicides or insecticides.
Yep.
Like in my farm is located at a hilltop on a ridge, so there is a very good sunlight, there is a very good air, so we use very less fungicides and very less insecticides.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, and and the fungicides are really because their leaves are wet, typically,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
And so what month are you normally harvesting your apples?
Like my orchard is at a place where the apple is harvested earliest in all India. So we harvest it in mid-July.
Wow. Wow.
Mid-July, when the market is the buyer come and they buy at very good price.
I can
We
tell
get
by
very good
this.
price for our apples. Yeah.
I can tell by the smile on your face.
Yeah.
We're harvesting apples right now here in Canada. So
Yeah.
um, so typically when you are harvesting, see in July, your days are still fairly warm and your nights are still fairly warm.
Yeah.
But as you move through August, September, and the nights are getting colder, you get more dew every night.
Hmm.
And the dew will be causing all of the problems with the leaves and the fruit quality because
Yeah.
of full.
Mostly the fungus. Yeah.
Exactly. And so
Mostly the
this is
fungus.
where we started talking about rain and hail protection, but for the growers that are harvesting later in the season, they actually need protection from dew.
Dew also. Yes.
Because if you can keep the dew off,
Hmm.
now you can reduce the potential for fungicides. And I think Rajendra may have sent you a link to a discussion from the researchers in Holland using a retractable roof, and they've reduced their fungicide usage 75% just by keeping the
Hmm.
rain and the dew off. And of course, Europe is far more advanced in restricting fungicides.
Yes.
So so they're taking them away faster than anywhere else. And
Hmm.
so growers are either getting a premium because they have lower residues,
Yeah.
or they have to figure out how not to lose their yield
Hmm.
if they don't have the sprays available. So when someone's looking at a, AutoDry retractable rain shelter, it's not about protecting from
From
rain and hail.
exactly.
It,
I understand.
it's now bigger. You're looking at this now as a production facility
Hmm.
and how to think about the impact of extreme weather, availability of harvest labor, availability of fungicides,
Hmm.
and thinking about what other high value varieties could I be growing if.
Hmm.
And so here in Canada, um, there is, I think it's called Honeycrisp, is a very popular variety here, but
Hmm.
it's more susceptible to sunburn.
Yeah.
And so their yield is being reduced because of sunburn. And then of course it doesn't have the same return on investment per hectare. So we're trying to understand the big picture here. That's why Rajender set up the call between you and me,
Yeah.
is this is not a sales pitch. This is a learning. You and I are both learning from each other,
Exactly. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What is
Hmm.
the potential impact? Because what we want to do is try to understand, what does the orchard of the future look like,
Hmm.
and how do you design it to um, anticipate the changes in the industry, right? So fungicides is a future change in the industry. Labor availability is a future change.
Hmm.
And because when you plant a new orchard, it's a long-term orchard, right? You don't plant it for 2 years,
No,
you
no,
plant
it's
it
not short.
for.
I mean, 25 years or 30 years. Yeah.
Exactly. So we need to be thinking about
Long term.
longer term, how do we design this for the future? So
Hmm.
um, so in your case, you've got location that gives you an early harvest. And so you have less problems with foliar disease than somebody else that you might be consulting for somewhere else. And so from an economics point of view, if you're at 15 to 18 tons, but it probably could be over 20 if you eliminated some of the bad weather, which could be wind, could be sunburn, could be whatever. And then it's like, okay, how do we maximize the size in order to get triple or quadruple the yield? And which variety would I grow if I was looking 5 years into the future? So in a sense, my job right now is to try to understand globally what's happening in the industry. And in a sense, I'm sharing with you part of what I'm learning too. So you're sharing with me your experiences, and I'm sharing with you what I'm learning from my study, shall we say.
Yeah.
So that logic you can apply to blueberries or strawberries and things like that. The interesting thing about all these crops that we're talking about is they are shorter harvest season crops. Right. This is not a tomato that you harvest 6 months. This is a apple you harvest once or twice within a short period of time. A blueberry you might harvest over 3 months. A strawberry you could do 6 months, 8 months, if providing you have reasonable nighttime weather. Because you still need, at least 20 degrees at night for the strawberry to flower. So, are you involved with other tree fruits, or is apples really the main one?
No, the apple is the main one, but for the last 2 years, we are also into blueberries.
Okay. And
Then
those
blueberries, some other berries like elderberries and strawberries, blackberries.
Okay.
But
Now,
mainly, I'm also looking to give a shelter for the blueberry also. As Rajendra said, we are also consultant for some of the growers. So we have some
okay.
clients. So we can recommend them, and we can suggest them to have a cover, because
Yeah.
they also understand monsoon can be a problem for them.
Yeah. 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 And are they at the similar climate zone as DS, or colder climate zone, or
No, similar. Some,
similar?
like blueberry, we are also growing at the similar elevation, like hills, mountains,
Yeah.
and some of the blueberry farms are in plain areas. Plain.
Perfect.
Hmm.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, the interesting part when we try to understand what can we control versus what we cannot control, the number one limitation to remember always is we cannot make a nighttime cooler.
Yeah.
If it's 30 degrees, it's 30 degrees. You can't make a cooler.
Yeah.
But I can make a daytime cooler because I can manage the sun, or I could add misting for evaporative cooling. And so I'm not concerned about daytime temperatures. I'm always concerned about nighttime temperatures, because having a movable cover doesn't help you with nighttime, which is why you're at the top of a hill.
Yeah.
So interesting. Do you have any thoughts or questions for me then?
No, even before this meeting, I understand that it is going to add value to my fruits, value to my production, and it will increase the yield. And I understand it will be very useful. So I have no question in
Yeah.
this regard. But my few question is, like, in small holdings, like we have, if I want to put this in 1 hectare, is it technically feasible?
Yeah.
This is one question. The second question is, if I recommend this system of the
Yeah.
cover, to my clients, how will we work together?
Can we leave that for a second discussion? Because right now, what I'm trying to do is
Okay.
understand
Okay.
more from the
Mhm.
market point of view. I understand there is future potential opportunities to work together. So
Mhm.
it's not like I want to avoid it. I just would rather that I'm trying to get my head around
Okay. We
the
can leave
market.
it for second
Yeah,
discussion.
we'll come back to that later. But the key thing here that um, that in my discussions with cherry growers, blueberry growers, apple growers so far,
Mhm.
everybody starts with they want a rain shelter, right? And then just like our discussion here, okay, let's add hail protection, let's
Mhm.
add sun protection, let's add all these different things to make it more.
Yeah.
The biggest question is what coverings are going on the walls? Because if I'm not trying to make it warmer,
Mhm.
I don't need real fancy walls.
Okay.
But if I want to make it warmer, I need a wall covering as well.
Mhm.
So your question about, is 1 hectare feasible?
Mhm.
It's feasible to do 0.2 hectares, but that doesn't mean it's economical, right? We can cover 0.2 hectares, but it may not be economical. And so what happens is the walls have, they could be simple insect net, could be bird net, could be plastic, or could be motorized curtains that go up and down, just like the
Mhm.
roof is going open and close.
Yeah.
And so on a 1 hectare project, the walls represent a bigger percentage of the total cost than if you have a 10 hectare project,
Mhm.
right? So if I'm not looking at real, um, I mean, you'll get frost protection even with a roof, but you won't hold as much heat if the walls are open.
Mhm.
So from our discussion so far, the only reason you'd want a wall is if you were trying to bring pollination earlier.
Yeah, we don't need walls.
No. Okay. So
We
what
don't.
that does, it reduces a percentage of the cost.
Mhm.
That percentage of the cost is bigger on 1 hectare than 5 hectares.
Yeah, I
which
understand.
makes which makes the 1 hectare price or project more feasible. The second part of this is automation. The cost of
Mhm.
the automation system is exactly the same if it's 0.5 hectare or 50 hectares,
Okay.
right?
That
And so
increases the cost.
that's where it's a fixed cost. It's the box, right? You need the box, the weather station.
I understand that this is what it makes the small covers economically not viable.
It's just harder. So we are working on trying to get some lower cost controllers right now,
Okay.
specifically for this market, because the normal Cravo product line
Mhm.
gets quite sophisticated. I mean, we have over 75 different retractable solutions. And people want sometimes 1 layer, 2 layers, 3 layers. And so the control systems have to get much bigger when
Mhm.
you want more control. In this case, it's a simple roof and
It's a simple roof. Yeah.
and maybe some walls. So we're working on trying to dumb down or simplify the controller to get the cost down.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
um, we are uh, we are in the process of finalizing the all of the designs.
Mhm.
So we know it works because we've done some mock-ups in that, but we're doing a full size one right now just to finalize all the details because this is going to get shipped around the world. We want to make sure we're clean on the design.
Mhm.
So we'll be able to answer a lot more questions a month from now
Mhm.
um, in terms of the final design and the costing and all that.
Mhm.
Right now, it's a matter I'm trying to do work in advance of that
Mhm.
to have clarity on where are the real strong potential markets that could move first and which ones will move second, third, or fourth. And it goes back to when you look at, for someone to buy, they need to have a good return on investment, number one.
Yes.
They need to have the financing available, number two, and they actually have to want to invest. Some people have the money, but they don't like to invest. They just want to do things the cheapest they can. And if that's what they want to do, they'll never buy anything that's automated because they would rather just have nothing or some simple netting that they put over top. So philosophically, there's kind of three criteria, right? Good return on investment, they have the capital, and their philosophy is they'd like to invest in order to make their business more profitable and more consistent.
Exactly.
And so that will be the next part of the journey, is to narrow down which kind of people fit that profile. In the meantime, while we are working on finalizing all of the designs and the pricing and that.
Okay.
Perfect.
I have a little question also, that what is the maintenance problem in future? Like if we install this rain covers, so what kind of problems can we face in future for
Well,
maintaining the structure?
here's the good, first of all, it's a really good question. The thing that makes me feel confident and should make you feel confident is that we have 40 years of experience doing drive systems. And so we are working with standard rain shelter covering designs and applying our knowledge from drive systems in order to make it movable. So, when you think of DS as 45 hectares of automatic roofs, the drive system on that structure is going to be very similar to the drive system on this structure.
Okay.
Really good question, though.
I think there is a little network problem.
Yeah, I'm hearing you, but your face isn't moving.
Yes.
But there is some problem in your audio also.
Okay. Rajendra, am I coming through clear?
You are
Even
clear, Richard, but I think due to internet problem
Okay.
on his side.
Okay. Well, do you have any other questions in Vikram?
No, I think it's okay. My first thing is, how can we make it economical viable for the small like 1 hectare projects?
Yep.
If we can make it, then there is a lot of potential in India.
Yep.
If we take with the 1 hectare small projects.
Yep.
And of course, there are some big projects we have, like 10, 20 or 30, 40 hectares. So they are big for me, big for us in India, not still small for you.
Yep.
That I understand.
No, very good.
So,
well, this is discussion number one, right? So we will regroup in say a month or so when we all have more information, and we'll continue the conversation.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you so much for your time, Vikram. It was a real pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vikram, sir. And say my good wishes to your daughter. She has a birthday today, Richard. And they are waiting for him.
Okay. You go. You go. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
See you again, sir. I will organize another meeting next time.
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.